What's up, guys? It's Toad, right back with you yet again. This is going to be Better Off Dead college football conference, college football. What am I saying? NFL conference championship edition. Oh my God, college football doesn't exist anymore. It's over. I'm so out of it, man. I'm off a 3-6 day, which totally pisses me off, as I was just kind of treading water for most of the day, and then the last like 3 bets all lost, including Cal State Bakersfield a little while ago. Completely blew the game. They're winning the game, blew it, retook the lead, and then blew it again and fucking lost. So it wasn't even all college basketball that was bad. College basketball was 3-4, but then 0-1 NHL, 0-1 NBA. I am not happy about it. Terrible day after I was hot up until the last couple of days. Yesterday was whatever, but today was a brutal day. 3-6, 4-5 would have been a much, much easier day to take. I did get the better number on Rutgers, so at least that one got there. Shortly after I did the show, I always get the better number that you can, obviously. Like sometimes the numbers that I give out on the morning show, I don't necessarily have the bet on it yet. So that one I did get plus 7.5 on it, so at least that one won, because it would have been even worse. But whatever. Let's talk about NFL, man. Hopefully this is not going to take that long to talk about 2 games. I have one play. I'm not going with any props. I'll talk about the totals and the sides on these. My one play is a side. I mean, you know me, kind of obviously. And it is going to be a side in the first game up, which is the NFC Championship game. Washington Redskins at the Eagles. There are a lot of things to kind of break down about this game. But in this game, right off the bat, you can kind of see Washington, they're a public underdog, man. So you know exactly where I'm going with this. Washington, 60% of the tickets, only 53% of the cash. They're the flavor of the week, basically, after Washington beat the Detroit Lions. Everybody loves Washington right now. They love the story. They love Jayden Daniels. Even though, as I keep pointing out, he is a rookie quarterback, and they keep playing on the road. And yeah, they got it done against Detroit last week. But Detroit was -5 in turnovers in that game, man. So, yes, Washington did put up a lot of offensive stats in the game, but also Detroit put up a ton of offense of their own, and they were really running the ball quite well, especially earlier in the game. But then they had to abandon it because they fell behind, partially because they were turning the ball over. -5 in turnovers, man. That is something that definitely did have an effect on the outcome of the game, for sure. I believe Detroit had at least 500-something yards of offense in the game. They outgained Washington. The game was a complete over style of game, which I talked about. I mentioned I liked the over in that one, and that certainly did happen in that one. But I think, I'm not going to say the result was misleading necessarily, but the result was definitely a little bit skewed due to the 5 turnovers. And now what you're looking at is still a team with a rookie quarterback, an inexperienced team, playing a 4th straight road game now, and now they're not going to have the comfort of the dome either. They're going to have to go back outside for this one. And yes, I know they've played at Philadelphia. They didn't play when it was this cold out, but they did play in November, I believe, in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia won the game. Well, we can look at it. Philadelphia won the game at home, and that was a game that was a lot lower scoring for most of it. It was actually like a 10-6 game or something, I think, late into the game. Or maybe it was 10-9, something like that. So Philly really took a lot to get going in this game. But then once they did, they kind of just exploded. And then they were winning 26-10 with 3 straight touchdowns in the 4th quarter. And Washington put up a garbage time touchdown and 2-point conversion to make it look more kind of cosmetic. But Philly did kind of dominate this game, in my opinion, for the most part. I had Philly in this game. They outgained Washington by almost 200 yards in the game. It's kind of shocking that the game was really this close. So Philadelphia did have the upper hand in this game. Then, as we know, Washington did win against Philly in the second matchup. But that was a matchup a couple weeks before the season was over, and Philly was almost locked into the 2 seed at that point, and Jayden Daniels got hurt in the game. So Washington, they did not beat Philly with Jayden Daniels in there. So really, they're kind of 0-2 against Jayden Daniels. Why do I keep saying that? Jalen Hurts, Jayden Daniels. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Jalen Hurts. Holy crap, I'm so out of it right now. I apologize. Jalen Hurts got hurt in this game, and yes, Washington did wind up outgaining Philly. They had 5 turnovers in the game, and they still actually won the game. They were +3 in turnovers. -3 in turnovers and still won the game, which, yeah, I mean, take from that what you will, but this game was a mess of a game. It was a sloppy game. Kenny Pickett came in and had a terrible game, although Saquon Barkley totally dominated. He had 150 yards of offense, and he also had a huge game in the other Philadelphia game as well. But Philadelphia was winning this game 21-7 early in the game in the first quarter before Jalen Hurts got hurt, and then kind of just all hell broke loose. So Philadelphia was still winning this game into the fourth quarter by multiple scores. And yeah, then Washington had to come back and win the game. Take from that what you will, but I would put an asterisk next to this game, and I don't think that this game is as much of an indicator of what we're going to see tomorrow. I think that the first game when Philly actually had Jalen Hurts and everybody was kind of there and the teams were intact and Philly was intact, I think that's more of an indicator of what's going to happen in this game than this crazy game where the Eagles, like I said, they had basically wrapped up the 2 seed at this point. Washington was still fighting to get into the playoffs, and Jalen Hurts got hurt. So what can you say about it? I think even Kenny Pickett might have gone down in this game too, but he did not do well in the game. That all being said, yeah, Jalen Hurts, obviously we know he's playing in this game tomorrow. He does seem to be a little bit on the injured side and maybe not 100%, so maybe he's not going to be able to move around with his feet as much. But even if that's not the case, I still like the Eagles in this one, and that's kind of where I'm going with this. If you could anticipate that already, my play is going to be on the Eagles in this one, which I will talk about that and the number in 1 second. But Saquon Barkley, I mean, he ran all over Washington in both games. In the first game, he had 150 yards in the second game. In the first game, I don't remember what it was, but let me see. In the first game, Barkley, 146, so he had very similar numbers in both games. And I don't see any reason why he's not going to do it again. I mean, you're looking at a Washington run defense that, as I just alluded to, Washington's run defense is not very good. And they got lit up, man, against Detroit last week on the ground before Detroit had to abandon the run. Washington, I think they're going to be had on defense. Saquon Barkley, he's almost unstoppable. I mean, the Rams couldn't stop him for the second time when they faced him last week. Even though the Rams knew what the Eagles were going to do, and the Eagles ran all over them the first time. Barkley, he just is ripping off large gains. I mean, he's just very difficult to stop. And now we're looking at Washington, who's probably the worst defense in the entire playoff field. So I think that's going to be a problem for Washington. Philadelphia is definitely going to try to establish the run in this game, and I believe they should be able to. And that may open up things for the pass soon. You may see Hurts not look as bad as he has recently either, because keep in mind, Hurts was hurt for the final couple of weeks of the regular season, and then he finally came back against Green Bay, and he definitely was rusty, and then last week maybe was affected by the snow a little bit, and I know he did get hurt again on a play where he got sacked, because prior to that, he actually looked pretty good last week, like on his feet. He had one long rushing touchdown, I think, early in the game. It's like, holy crap, he's back. So they're going to inject him up with some stuff, and he may be ready to go in this game as well. Philadelphia, they also have the best defense, I think, maybe remaining. Maybe Kansas City, but, I mean, Philadelphia, I mean, those two teams probably have the top defenses in football, so that's another thing. What Washington was able to do against Detroit, I know what Detroit looked like against Minnesota, but Detroit's defense, they're still banged up, they're battered up, they're still not that good a defense. Philadelphia's defense is a different animal, man. So I do think Philadelphia's defense is going to pose different problems for Washington's offense. Washington, as I pointed out before, they can't really run the ball that well. I know Jaden Daniels is a dual-threat quarterback, but their actual rushing attack is not that good. And if they fall behind, which may happen in a game where they're an underdog, they're going to have to be throwing the ball a lot, and they can become kind of one-dimensional, man. I don't think that's good for Washington either. That didn't happen last week, but I think we may see it finally happen this week. And speaking of Washington, they have undoubtedly been getting kind of lucky this year, man. I mean, they're a decent team, but they've won 7 games in a row, I believe. And in the last, prior to last week, the prior 5 games had all been decided on the final play from scrimmage. That's insane. So Washington's 5 wins prior to that, from the Tampa Bay game going all the way back to the I guess, the New Orleans game. All of those games came down to the final possession, final play from scrimmage to determine who won the game. So that's also crazy. So Washington, they've been playing a lot of close games. A lot of those games are coin flips, so they all fell Washington's way in all of those. So you might say, well, that's because Washington is good, but I think you could also say that there's got to be some regression in store here because they're just winning so many of these close games, man. I'm not sure that's going to continue. And now what we have here is we have the conference championship game. This is another animal. Philadelphia's got the experience. They've been here before. They were here 2 years ago. They won it. They got into the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So I think they're the team that's more used to this. They know how to deal with a situation like this. They know how to deal with the pressure like this. Even though I don't trust Sirianni as a coach, but I don't trust Dan Quinn on the other side either. I mean, lest we forget, Dan Quinn was the 28-3 coach in the Super Bowl for the Atlanta Falcons, who basically all he had to do was run the ball when they were in field goal range, up 28-3, and then wound up getting like a holding penalty on a pass play that was totally inexcusable, putting his team out of field goal range, and then the Falcons lost the entire game to the Patriots. So I don't want to remember that. That game pissed me off big time as a hater of the Patriots, but that happened. So I don't trust either coach. I think these are the lesser of the two coaches that are remaining in the playoffs. Let's put it that way. But the other thing I was going to point out is this is a conference championship game, man, and rookie quarterbacks in conference championship games are 0-5 in the conference championship, and they've lost by, well, let's say they're 0-4, okay? I can go down all four of them right now, and they're not all terrible quarterbacks either. Like, a couple of them actually won Super Bowls later in their career. So one of them was Sean King. Yeah, he sucks. He had a terrible game in the conference championship against the Rams in 2000, going 13 for 29 for 163 yards. Terrible. They lost the game 11-6. Ben Roethlisberger lost to the Patriots 41-17 his rookie year. 41-27, I think is what it was. Whatever it was. Roethlisberger didn't have a great game either. 14 for 24 for 226. Joe Flacco in 2009 was only 13 for 30 against the Pittsburgh Steelers with the Baltimore Ravens. 141 yards, not good. Mark Sanchez, well, we know he sucks, but Jets against the Indianapolis Colts, 17 for 30 for 257. So he actually had the best numbers out of all of them. Mark Sanchez, go figure. And then Brock Purdy, I know he was 4 for 4 for 23 yards, but that was the game that's kind of got an asterisk next to it because that was the game in 2023, the 2022-2023 season where we know he got hurt almost right away in that game. And then I believe San Francisco's backup got hurt as well. That was the game against the Eagles at the 49ers. That was the game where I have said, well, that was basically the game that the Niners should have won. They should have made the playoffs, or they should have made the Super Bowl, but history was kind of against it, man. As you can see here, every rookie quarterback that's made the conference championship game has had a bad game. They've at most put up about like 250 yards. 3 of them put up significantly less than that, and 2 of them were below 50% passing, one of them being eventual Super Bowl winner Joe Flacco. So the history was against Brock Purdy in that game, man. So what else can you say? So if you include the Purdy game, you're looking at rookie quarterbacks starting conference championship games are 0-5. I'm not sure that any of them covered the spread, except maybe Sean King's Bucks covered against the Rams if they were less than a 5-point underdog. Maybe they were. So they might be 1-4 against the spread, and they've lost by an average of 13 points in those games. Or if you throw Brock Purdy's out, you're looking at 0-4 straight up, maybe 1-3 against the spread, and you're looking at an average loss of 10.25 points. So still, average loss by double digits for rookie quarterbacks in conference championship games. Oh, and by the way, every one of those teams, Tampa Bay in 2000, Steelers in 2005, Ravens in 2009, and Jets in 2010, and the 49ers in 2023, every one of those teams was a top 3 defense in the NFL, and all of them still lost those games. So even though the rookie quarterback, like you're thinking, well, that's the reason why they lost the rookie quarterback. I mean, I guess it probably kind of is because those teams still had like great defenses to back up that rookie quarterback. That is not the case here. Washington is nowhere close to a top 3 defense, and even those teams with top 3 defenses all lost those games. So history is not on the side of Jayden Daniels in Washington. I hate to say it here. And as I was pointing out when I first started talking about this game, Washington, they're the flavor of the week, man. They just beat the Detroit Lions. You can't possibly look better than that, than beating the Detroit Lions. You got this high-flying offense with Jayden Daniels. Philadelphia has looked ugly in their 2 playoff games so far with Jalen Hurts there. Hasn't looked right, hasn't looked that great. So the public, as I said, they're coming in and taking this high-flying Washington offense. Granted, Washington played in Tampa Bay, and they played in a dome in Detroit, so ideal conditions, whereas Philadelphia played both their games in cold in Philadelphia. So keep that in mind as well. I'm going to take the team that looked uglier. This line's sitting at 6 right now, and I think that's probably about appropriate. Philadelphia -6. I think the line actually came out a little bit lower than 6. It was like 5.5, and it has moved up a little bit. I think there was some initial sharp movement on the Eagles, so give me the Eagles. That's my one play tomorrow in the conference championship games. I like the history, the experience, and I think that the public sentiment is completely wrong in this game. I think Commanders, Redskins, football team, whatever the hell you want to call them, they should rename themselves the Redskins because I think now is not their time. Let's just put it that way. As far as the total is concerned in this game, by the way, I do agree with the under in this one. I think it's the stronger of the 2 totals. I would agree with the under in this one. It's down from 48 to 47.5. Juice to the under, 80% of tickets and only 64% of the cash on the over. Public coming back on the over, and why wouldn't they? They just saw Washington put up 70-something points in that game against Detroit. And even the Eagles-Rams, as I mentioned last week, I thought it might go over the total. It did, although it kind of came down to like the Rams scoring kind of in garbage time to push my bet. Bullshit. That also put the game over the total, I think. So both of those games were a little bit high scoring, but I mean, come on, man. The Washington-Detroit game, I mean, that was just a game that completely unraveled. I don't expect something like that to happen in this game. You're looking at a cold weather environment in Philadelphia. You're looking at you're going to get the Eagles running the football. The Eagles probably playing defense as well. So I actually think that a low-scoring game actually helps the Eagles, as weird as that might sound. I mean, obviously, the Eagles have the better of the 2 defenses. So that's why like the lower scoring game would be more in their style. But I am also saying that a lower scoring game in this one actually might help the Eagles cover the spread. So I do like the under in this game as well. But I like the Eagles side more. And the other thing I will point out is that I think the Eagles should be able to dominate this game in the trenches, man. If you've been looking at what they're doing, especially their offensive line has been very impressive. At run blocking especially. So they have a really good offensive line. I think it's going to be a huge problem for Washington's defense. I think Saquon Barkley is going to have another game. I would not mind like Saquon Barkley over props, even though it seems kind of square. I would not hate that at all. I think you will see him get quite involved again in this game, and he did it both other times against Washington. He's basically been unstoppable, so I expect that to be the case, and the Eagles are better on both lines, both their offensive line and their defensive line. I think they have the advantage on both sides of the ball in the trenches, so that is something that's often overlooked, and I think you should not overlook it in this game. Eagles -6 is the play. Nate, what's up, man? Rigi? No, that is not my name either. The Eagles are begging to be defeated. I disagree. I think they're the significantly better team here. What are you talking about? Washington won the turnover battle by 5 last week. The Eagles, what did they win it by? 2, 1? I don't know. I'm not putting much stock in that at all. No, I don't have a future on the Eagles. I have them. I have in my bracket. I have the Chiefs over the Eagles in the Super Bowl in my bracket. But that's just like in a small money pool. Charles, what's up, man? By the way, Red Hot Chili Peppers. I don't know about that, man. That's I probably could do it, but like it's almost all base, so it like doesn't translate to uke like at all. The Exils, yeah. I'm going with the Exils in this one. I am fading the public. You know me. I disagree with the public sentiment. I love being contrarian. It works out more often than it does not. Charles, what's up, man? Your grandpa worked on a reservation in Montana. Oh, yeah, they like the Indian-themed teams. Yeah. There's some congressman, I think, from Montana that's trying to take some sort of legal action to get the Redskins back. We need the Redskins back. We need the Cleveland Indians back. Let's do it, man. And now let's talk about Bills Chiefs, and then I'll get out of here. Maybe it'll be about a 40-minute video. This game, the market look on this has looked similar to me to the other game, where it looks like you have a road underdog that's looking kind of public, and the money is looking to go against them. I don't think this is as strong as the Eagles, but I do lean to the Chiefs in this game as well. Bills, 72% of tickets, 75% of the cash right now, so maybe more of the cash percentage coming in on them right now. That's not what I saw throughout the week, though, and we did see an initial move from Pick'em, or really it was, I think, kind of in the 1 range on the Chiefs, all the way up to 2, and now it's like either 2 or 1.5 right now with juice on the Chiefs. So I do think it was a professional move, like a sharp move, just to get out ahead of where they thought the number was going to go at the very least on both the Eagles and the Chiefs in those initial moves. Those are early moves at a point where the public doesn't usually get involved yet. They usually get involved basically on game time, maybe a little bit earlier now, so we'll see what's going to happen, but I really expect the public is definitely going to be on Washington taking the points. Public, once it gets to these championship games, man, they tend to think this is going to be a competitive game, and they also look at recency and whatever, and a lot of times that lands them on the underdog, and they think it's a nice price to be getting on the underdog, thinking that like the favorite doesn't look dominant enough or whatever the case may be. A lot of times you can fade that sentiment. Back to this Bills-Chiefs game, though. This is a tougher one to read, man. The Chiefs, my thing is basically, we all know the story by now. The Bills have been able to beat the Chiefs in the regular season, and they did again this year, and that was the Chiefs' only legitimate loss, really. The Chiefs' only other loss was the game where they rested everybody against Denver, so that game doesn't count. They did lose to the Bills in Buffalo, I believe, which was the Chiefs' only other loss this season. We know this. The Bills did win, I think, in Kansas City either last year or 2 years ago during the regular season as well. The Bills have beaten the Chiefs, I think, at least 3 times during the regular season. But during the Allen Mahomes era here, the Bills are 0-3 against the Chiefs in the playoffs. We know this. So a lot of people are saying, well, that means Josh Allen is finally due. It's his time now. I don't buy into like a narrative like that. I think you got to look at what the individual situation is. And until the Chiefs show me otherwise, they've been the team that's won this game every single time. So I'm not going to put my money on that to change until I see otherwise. It could be that Josh Allen is going to finally get over the hump. I mean, he's been here before. The Bills were in this game at Arrowhead in the AFC Championship 3 years ago, I believe, maybe 2 years ago, whenever it was. And it was that crazy high-scoring game that went into overtime, and basically the first team that got the ball in overtime won the game, and that was the Chiefs. And I think because of that game, the overtime playoff rules change so that it's not just you get the ball, and if you get a touchdown, you win. Although we don't have offenses that are as high-flying now as we had back then, but still, that is the case there. Mark Andrews, yeah, I know. Bills shouldn't be here. I agree the Bills should have lost that game to the Ravens. So that's what I was about to talk about. The Bills, they definitely got lucky last week. The Ravens had 3 turnovers to the Bills, no turnovers. And we saw what happened. And they were really all unforced errors, too. It was a bad miscommunication interception thrown by Lamar Jackson where he thought that one of his receivers was going deep, I think, and he threw it deep, and the receiver ran an out route instead. So there was that miscommunication, nothing the Bills really did. And then there was the fumble on, like, it was just a bad snap that Lamar Jackson bobbled it, and then he wound up, because of the bad snap, he lost his timing basically, and he fumbled the football. That wound up being a turnover. And then the last one was Mark Andrews catching a pass across midfield in the fourth quarter when they were driving to try to win the game. Fumbles that over. Really, all three of them were unforced errors, in my opinion. And maybe that last Andrews one, their defense was able to knock that one out, but it was just bad, man. And, the Ravens outgained Buffalo in that game, 410, something in that range, to like 250, 260. Josh Allen really did not do anything in the game. So yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. I had I had the Ravens as my lean. I had the Ravens picked in my pools. Allen only had 127 yards, man, and Cook didn't go off either. He only had 67. So more passing yards and rushing yards from the Baltimore side in the game. Lamar Jackson didn't do badly at all. Henry didn't do bad. So yeah, I mean, that's what you're looking at in that game. The odds makers were telling you Baltimore was the better team as they were the favorite on the road. And then now the odds makers are telling you Buffalo is the slightly better team here because the Chiefs are not getting the full home field advantage here. And I may agree with that. I mean, Buffalo does have the better offense. We know the Chiefs' offense has taken a step back this year, but the Chiefs do have the better defense, in my opinion. The Bills do have a few injuries, I think, that started cropping up last week in their game as well. So I think they do have a couple of injuries in the secondary. So a little bit of a cluster injury situation in the secondary. I don't know if the Chiefs will be able to really take full advantage of it, but we will see. But again, the Chiefs, they've been here before. I think Patrick Mahomes in the conference championship what is he now? He's like 7-0 or something like that. Is that what it is? Like, he's been really good in the conference championship. In Arrowhead, in cold weather games, Mahomes, I think he's like 23-2 or something like that. And those two losses were, I think, some weird game like during his rookie season against the Chargers or something like that. And then the other one was the one that we all remember, which was the playoff game against Tom Brady. Was it playoffs? I think it was the playoffs. Was it, or was it a regular season game? I think it was the playoffs. Tom Brady, I think it was one of his last years with the Patriots. I think it might have been the year where the Patriots won the Super Bowl against the Rams that year, if I'm not mistaken. That year, you guys remember the game, though, because it was Mahomes, like one of his first years, one of Brady's last years, and it was a crazy game that went into overtime, and the Patriots got the ball first, and they just marched down the field and scored, if you remember that. So that was another one that maybe kind of wound up leading to the overtime playoff, or the playoff overtime rules being different. So those were Mahomes' only two losses in games that are like below 40 degrees or something like that in Arrowhead. So that's crazy as well. So he is really good in this situation. Of course, Josh Allen, I mean, he's not going to be fazed by the cold, though, or anything like that. And you know the Bills, they've been competitive in all these games they've lost to the Chiefs. All three games they lost to the Chiefs were indeed by one score, I'm pretty sure, including last year, where I think it came down to like a missed field goal on the side of Buffalo or something like that. Last year's game was in Buffalo, though. And last year, I thought Buffalo was actually going to do it last year, and they did not. This year, I actually think the Chiefs might be the team that's being a little bit disrespected right now and being overlooked. And I hate the Chiefs. I disrespect them because I think they get all the calls, man. So you know what I'm saying. I mean, the Chiefs have that like little extra reffing edge, and they had it again last week with that roughing the passer call where Mahomes like basically didn't even get touched, and two Texans defenders ran into each other, and somehow it's roughing the passer. I mean, it's ridiculous. When we know the Chiefs get calls like this, it's probably going to happen again. I think it may be a factor again here. And the other thing I was going to point out is Buffalo, they beat the Chiefs during the regular season, which was the only Chiefs loss. This was it. It was 30-21. Actually, surprisingly high scoring in Buffalo. But the game was 23-21 until late, and Josh Allen broke that run to break the game open at the end there. But the Chiefs had two turnovers in the game, although Buffalo did actually outgain them also by 100 yards. So Buffalo did outplay them, but the Chiefs did have two turnovers. And since that game, the Chiefs don't have any turnovers, I believe. But Buffalo also, I believe, only has one turnover since then. So both of these teams have not turned the ball over, like hardly at all, which is crazy. So you're looking at two teams that really focus on ball security. And for Buffalo, Buffalo has had a ton of takeaways this year, but that might kind of make Buffalo look a little bit better than they are. Buffalo was plus 24 in turnovers this year, man. And yeah, part of it was that they did not turn the ball over a lot. So Josh Allen had very few turnovers this year. Yeah, we know that. But that means Buffalo is getting a lot of takeaways, and that could mean, yeah, their defense is ball hawking, whatever, but it could be like last week where it's just a lot of teams will play them and they're just like making mistakes. And I don't think that Kansas City is going to make as many mistakes, man. As I just said, they don't make a lot of mistakes. They run the football a lot. Patrick Mahomes does not make a lot of mistakes. He did throw a lot of interceptions earlier in the season, but since then he's gotten it totally under control again. So like the first several games, Mahomes is actually interception prone this year, but now Kansas City kind of has all their receivers back. They added DeAndre Hopkins. Hollywood Brown is back. Xavier Worthy has played a full season now. Kelsey, I think, missed some time during the season as well, if I'm not mistaken. So Mahomes, I mean, he was without his full complement of receivers for some extent there, but now he has them back. So I don't know that Buffalo, with their being a takeaway machine, I don't know that that's really going to help them that much in this game. Like, I don't expect there to be a lot of turnovers in this game on either side. But Buffalo, by the way, being plus 24 in turnovers, if we look at turnover margin, let me see if I can bring this up. Turnover margin, because I know Buffalo was at the top. They're plus 24. All of the other teams that are top 5, I can show you it right now. If you can see this on my screen right now. All of the other teams that are top 5 are now out of the playoffs, although the Philadelphia Eagles are right behind that. But Steelers, Packers, Chargers, and Vikings are the next 4, and they're all gone. So, again, when you have a turnover differential like this, a lot of times that's kind of telling you, well, that team was kind of thriving on those turnovers and not necessarily thriving on, like, actually, like, winning the game in, like, other statistical categories. Which is part of the reason I think why you see the rest of these teams are gone, why I really thought the Vikings and the Chargers are kind of overrated coming into the playoffs. But, I mean, all the other playoff teams are here as well. So, you know, but the Chiefs are actually way down at plus 6. But anyway, like, I don't know if we can really take that much away from it. But again, I thought it was interesting that the next 4 teams behind Buffalo in turnover differential are all out of the playoffs now. And all of them were one and done as well. So a little bit of an interesting tidbit there. Buffalo, by the way, when they beat Kansas City, I believe Pacheco was not in this game. So Kansas City, it was a little bit different for Kansas City. They did not have Pacheco, and he is back in this one. They had Kareem Hunt. I mean, he didn't do a ton in this game. But really, Kansas City actually completely shut down Buffalo's rushing attack in this game, though. Buffalo has used James Cook a lot this year, but Kansas City has been really good at defending the run. They have a really good rushing defense, and they held James Cook to 20 yards in this game, man. And this is a game that was close enough that you would expect Buffalo had to have been trying to establish the run, and they were not able to do it at all. Josh Allen got his yardage on the ground, but they were really not able to do it. So Kansas City actually had the more balanced offensive attack in this game. It's just Mahomes did throw 2 interceptions, only had 196 yards, so he didn't really put up a huge yardage total in that game. And, of course, they were without Hollywood Brown in this game as well. Travis Kelce did play, but he was very ineffective in the game, which I don't expect him to be ineffective in this game. I actually kind of expect both teams' tight ends to kind of do well in this game. Kansas City, one of their biggest defensive weaknesses is being able to stop tight ends. And Buffalo, I mean, I do think Buffalo's going to get gashed a little bit by Kelce in this game as well. So those are kind of all my thoughts just coming into play here. But then it comes down to, like I said, Kansas City, until they prove otherwise, like, that's the way I would have to roll in this one because they keep winning these games. And as I made a joke on Twitter, by the way, Buffalo has lost 3 straight playoff games to Kansas City. It's not like they could possibly lose a 4th straight playoff game of any specific kind, right? Which, if you don't know, that was my joke about the infamous Buffalo losing 4 straight Super Bowls as the only team to ever do that in the early 90s. They lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. And really, most of them were not even actually close. Only the first one was close. So another little bit of an interesting tidbit there. And by the way, I was going to mention as far as the turnover situation, Patrick Mahomes, I mentioned how he was perfect in the divisional round turnover-wise. In this round, he's only thrown 2 interceptions, I believe, over all of his AFC championship games that he's played. And so that's not terrible either. A little bit more on the mistake side in this round than in the prior round. But, I mean, you're facing a better opponent usually in this round. So, and they are. I mean, they're facing a Buffalo here rather than the Texans. But the other thing about the Texans game last week is that Kansas City, they played the earliest game last week, man. They played the matinee on Saturday, and it was kind of an easy win for Kansas City, so they didn't have to put in a whole lot of effort. So Kansas City, they have the rest advantage here, man, because they played the earliest game on Saturday, and Buffalo had to play the late game on Sunday, and it was a tough game against a tough Baltimore defense, a physical Baltimore team that went all the way to the wire. So Kansas City has a little bit of a rest advantage here too, man, which is not as significant in Washington, Philadelphia. I know Washington did play on Saturday, but they played in the night game. Philadelphia played Sunday afternoon, so there's not a whole lot of a rest edge there. And Washington is the team that's traveling up into Philly in that game. Philly's not even traveling, so the rest edge, there's not a huge difference, not a huge rest edge in the game for Washington and Philly, but in this game there kind of is. And Kansas City is not traveling, of course, and Buffalo is having to travel into Kansas City. So there is a little bit of a rest edge on the Kansas City side as well. And as I was just kind of alluding to, as I was about to say, Kansas City does also have the experience here. I mean, even though Buffalo has been here now, and it wouldn't shock me if they finally were able to get it done and get over the hump because they've played competitively in these playoff games and the one AFC championship they were in recently, but Kansas City is here year in, year out. They're so used to it at this point. It's like second nature. I mean, they got the most playoff and Super Bowl pedigree out of any of the playoff rosters, man. There's no question. And out of the teams that are left, Philadelphia is actually second. And then Washington, of course, is last. And Buffalo would be third. But Kansas City, of course, they got Andy Reid there. They got Mahomes. I mean, they've won 3 Super Bowls already with this core basically there. And Kansas City is going for the three-peat, man, which has never happened before. A team has lost 3 Super Bowls in a row before. As I said, Buffalo lost 4 in a row, but no team has ever won 3 in a row. And every team that's won 2 and then got to the Super Bowl to try for the three-peat, I believe it's happened 3 times and all of them lost. So history is against Kansas City in that regard once they get to the Super Bowl, but not really against them in this round necessarily. So again, we'll see what happens with that. But I kind of think that as far as like the narrative makers are concerned, if you think that stuff is scripted and the narratives are out there, I kind of think that the three-peat narrative kind of seems like that would kind of be what like the narrative writers would want. Like, don't you think so? I mean, Josh Allen, yeah, it's a good story, but is it as good as the three-peat? I don't know. And I'm saying that as a hater of Kansas City because they keep getting away with everything, man. And that is the one hesitation that I kind of have with Kansas City really is that they won a lot of close games, man. I talked about Washington winning all those games on the final play from scrimmage, but Kansas City, we know their point differential, their margin of victory this year was shockingly low. Like the lowest in out of I think all the playoff teams or whatever. Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, shockingly low. Even though they won all but 2 games, and you can throw the Denver game out. I mean, that game Kansas City didn't play their starter, so throwing that game out, Kansas City had a lot of close wins. So that does tell you that Kansas City may be a little bit overperforming. The refs may be helping them a little bit, but of course in this game the spread is basically just pick the winner. So I lean to the Chiefs for those reasons, and the total is just sitting at 48.5. 77% of tickets and only 58% of the cash on the over. So the public coming in on both overs. I would slightly lean to the under in this one as well, but not as crazy as the under in this one, man. I would prefer the under in the Washington and Eagles game, even though both games are going to be cold. The Eagles game actually won't be that cold. It'll probably be in the 30s or maybe even 40 in that game, so it's not going to be like it was last week. The Chiefs game is going to be a bit colder. I think probably in the teens or the 20s, so that may hold the offenses down a little bit in this game. And of course, you're looking at two defenses. Like everybody thinks about, oh, it's Josh Allen against Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen is probably going to win the MVP, and he should because he has less of a surrounding cast against him than Lamar Jackson does. So I do think it will be Josh Allen. But people think about this as Allen Mahomes, two really good quarterbacks. And I think they're thinking about that kind of the wrong way because both these teams do like to play defense, run the football. So total looks a little bit high to me. And this one actually kind of crazy that this total is higher than the other total. But that's also kind of telling you that that's because the Eagles' defense, I think, is actually pretty good. So I think that's kind of what that's telling you. It's kind of factoring that in. Although, I don't know, because the Chiefs' defense is pretty good, too. So, I don't know, man. Or maybe they're just telling you that these two offenses are a little bit more capable. I don't know, man. But whatever the case is, it kind of surprises me that this is the higher total, when I would expect the other game would actually be the game that kind of seems like it should be higher scoring, which is also kind of why, again, I kind of like the under in that game more, like fading the sentiment. Yes, Josh Allen is the last great white hope. None. Yes, that is correct. I tweeted that out, that he's the only white quarterback remaining. So if you want White Boy Summer to continue. So in my heart, I will have to be rooting for Buffalo here. But as far as like what I'm picking in my pools and stuff, I'm probably going to have the Chiefs in this one. And obviously I'm going to have the Eagles, which I don't love the Eagles as a team either, really. But I do like them in the spot. I like, as far as where my money is going, that's where it's going on the Eagles. So I think that's going to do it for me, man. I mean, I think under is the lean in the Bills-Chiefs, and I like it better in the Washington and Eagles game. Because I do see Bills-Chiefs potentially being kind of a like heavyweight type of fight as well, where teams don't want to make mistakes early. And they're kind of feeling each other out, running the football. And their other game got up over 50, as I showed you, which, I don't know, maybe slightly misleading based on how it looked like it was being played. Yes, thank you, sir. It was not a 3-day stint in the ER, but it was a 3-day. I had a fever for more than 3 days, for like 4 or 5 days, and I finally had to go. It was like a 3-hour stint in the ER, though, on Monday, and I am doing a bit better now. All right, thanks, guys, for hanging out. That's going to do it. Hopefully some good information there with those games. My one play is the Eagles minus the points, -6. Let's get that done. I'll be back tomorrow morning. I'll have another video. Of course, I still got to talk about whatever college basketball and NBA and NHL might be going on tomorrow. I'm sure it's a short card, so it's not like today, but today sucked ass, so hopefully it's not like today. We got to get back on the winning track again. I'm still winning this year, but it's not as significant as it was 24 hours ago, where I was looking real pretty, and now I'm not. I don't know what you're saying, man. Oh, the ER, yes, ER, yeah. Mitch, what's up, man? The Rantanen trade, I don't even know, man. I don't know hockey personnel well enough at all. What was the trade? Let me see. I'll look it up quickly. That was Colorado Avalanche, right? Let me see. Where did he get traded? I'm trying to figure it out right now. Why can't I see what this is? Rantanen, Nikos, and Taylor Hall all got traded in a 3-team blockbuster. So Nikos, Carolina Hurricanes, and so all 3 of them are swapping teams, I guess. So which team is getting which player, I guess, is my question. I don't know. This article is so poorly written, man. Let me see here. So it looks like Hall to the Hurricanes, Nikos to the Avs, and let me see. Rantanen is also going to the Hurricanes. All right, I gotcha. Okay, yeah. So it was a 3-team trade, but it was 2 for 1, basically. I don't know, man. Yeah, Rantanen, yeah, there it is right there. For Nikos and Drury, yeah, that's right. So it's all right, a 4-team trade, yeah. So you think the Canes won that trade? Maybe. I'm not so sure, man, because the question is, well, I don't know, because Carolina, I mean, they definitely play a different style than Colorado. So you got to kind of fit into their, I would say, more of a defensive style there. So I don't know. So we'll see, because those guys are both forwards, right? Ranton and Nikas are both forwards. I don't really know who the other guys are. It's just because they can't pay him the money. Yeah, so maybe that is a trade that's better for Carolina. I don't know. We will see. But interesting trade there. Yeah, the author was a DEI hire for sure. All right, that's going to do it for me. I wish I knew more about hockey personnel. I just bet hockey based on like the scheduling situations, man. I don't know as much about the personnel in hockey, but hockey betting has worked out pretty well for me, even though I know I didn't get it today. But just doing it based off the situation tends to work out well. Good night to you as well. Tower Gang Toad on Twitter and Tower Gang Podcast, patreon.com/Tower Gang. You get live pre-show, post-show. Get to hang out with us in a Telegram, and follow flapper.net, FLAPPR.net, the purveyors of the world's finest smut blog. They put up their Milkers of the Year awards recently, where I'm pretty sure Sydney Sweeney won the whole thing, and why not? I mean, she did a lot this year for the world of mommy milkers, so or just milkers in her case, because she's not a mom, but there was a mom category. By the way, there are many categories there, and Marissa Tomei, as I mentioned, was my personal favorite. I love her, so she was in one of the categories. I forget which one, but there were too many categories. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Charles, Nunya, Mitch, Nate, all you guys. Did I miss anybody? Hopefully I didn't. If I did, I apologize. All right, man. Peace out.